Hey, how you doing? Welcome back. We're back from a 1 week hiatus where basically I just didn't do it. But I really appreciate you all. If you're sticking with us anyway, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. We do it every Wednesday at 9:30, apart from 1 week, which was last week, where we answer any and all fantasy or dynasty related questions you might have. So drop whatever questions, comments, or thoughts you have about Dynasty football, or how stupid we are, I guess, in whatever comment box, whatever streaming platform you're watching on us. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I think we're just on the three. I don't know why I say whichever, but there you go. Happy to be back. It's hot take season, and I'm excited to hear some of your hot takes. Hey, Zach, what's up?
Not too much. Don't sell yourself short, Peter. Last week you were off. Peter was taking a birthday hiatus, and so don't let him fool you. He was living it up, doing the birthday thing. So
it was also my birthday. That is true. So, yeah. I didn't do anything, but it was technically also my birthday. I'm thinking about not putting the background music on because, well, it's like a thing. Like I like it because it fills the space, but I don't know it does. I don't know it's as good.
I prefer it without it, just because I can.
That's the thing. I think listening to shows, I prefer not having it, but doing a show, I'm like, I want it. I want the backup almost, but we'll see. Got a few comments. All right. We still have a few people that check us out after missing last week. Hot take. Miles Sanders leads all running backs in receptions this year. Andrew, that is a hot take. That would define the Twitter hot take, I think. I don't see it. He was touchdown fueled, if I remember right, last year more than anything as well. Well, he's a good receiver. He's not Alvin Kamara. Also, that backfield seems slightly split, no?
No,
shaking your head at me.
No. I agree with you on that's a hot take. I do think Sanders is a decent pass catcher, but to see him in a position where he leads the league. This is funny. Andrew says Gibbs will lead all running backs in receptions in his next. I like that one better. I think Gibbs has a better chance of being that receiver than Sanders does. It's still probably McCaffrey. Just seems like right. Like even money goes to McCaffrey, but
I've got him projected Sanders, that is, for 54 targets so far, and that's based on the market average rank of Miles Sanders facing 2023 with a little dynasty source thrown on, and what he does on average when he scores certain points per game. So yeah.
I do think that it won't be as much of a running quarterback. So those checkdowns may be there. I think 54 seems low for targets for him. I'd probably
okay.
I mean, but I don't do projections, so that's like
he's only like kind of ranked as like running back 19 is the thing. I think that has an effect. But Yeah. Open 24 hours. How you doing, man? In Seinfeld voice, which I will not do because I don't know.
What's the deal?
What's the deal with the Christian Watson? Trust or bust at ADP? Ceiling or floor? Consistency? Love hurts. His yards per reps run and fantasy points per snap were excellent last year. Yeah, I hate him.
Love it.
Yeah, we're back, right? No, I don't mind him at ADP at all. He's a young receiver with a good rookie season. No matter how you want to measure it, he had a really good rookie season. He's got draft capital. I think the team's worse and all the rest of the buzz. But honestly, the main reason I'm avoiding him is because you've got to avoid someone. Last year, we had a whole plethora of wide receivers do relatively well. I don't think it's a 2014 class even. And even in that class, we had 3 or 4, and we've kind of got to choose between our darlings here. And Christian Watson has one of the biggest red flags to me a good rookie season can have, which is an overabundance of touchdowns or an overdependence on touchdowns. Then when you dig into his numbers a little bit, he was a little bit dependent on, he was more schemed into a role than he earned a significant role. If I'm reading it right, and I could be reading it wrong, and lots of people have told me I am, but I will hang my hat on the one thing I know to look for in good rookie seasons, that is a danger, is an over-reliance on touchdowns. That's of the few that do relatively well, and Christian Watson did. in their rookie season, they then go on to do nothing. And the bust rate of young wide receivers is a little higher than a lot of people imagine, especially if you dig further back into it. I was looking at David Boston recently, but that's another story. Yeah, it's too many touchdowns is the red flag to have on that profile, and or the only one that's consistent between those guys. And so I'm just going to ride with that. It's not even a Christian Watson take. I just look at what has happened, what happens most often with, I think, fair context. But if you want to flesh it out with a narrative, like Jordan Love isn't Aaron Rodgers, and that seems like a fair thing to say.
And it's not only too many touchdowns, but too many long touchdowns. Like
a combination of
yeah. So it. Again, the way he's coming off, and this is hold on, we got to go to Mike. Mike has a question that I think is really pertinent.
All right, what's that? You read it. I'm not looking.
Are you saying dumb things on the internet again, Peter? Hey,
Mike. Yeah. No, I think today you're not here, so I'm just saying. No dumb thing.
That was a fun show.
I really thought it came off well. I did a good job of like fixing the stuff that he said and turn it into actionable information. I thought I did really well that show. He did terrible, but no, I actually thought it was one of the better interviews I've done.
But
the
Christian Watson, like to me in DLF's May ADP, and I know we're in June, but ADP kind of lags. You're looking at players around Christian Watson that include Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Treylon Burks, Jerry Jeudy, George Pickens. Like the Pickens, I'll give you is kind of a push, but I think there's way more of a chance that Pickens reaches his ceiling than there is that Watson becomes what people are hoping that he does. But then all of the rest of those, even down to like Deontay Johnson and Amari Cooper, like I want all of those players over Christian Watson in spite of his age. I just don't think the production is – it feels like a paper tiger a little bit.
Yeah. I've got a value formula right now that over adjusts for age, like really likes young players, and it still puts them as like wide receiver 30. Yeah, strangely enough, almost neck and neck with Christian Watson. With Chase Claypool still, because he has that, because it only looks at positive years, and Claypool had that one, like Watson has so far. So, it's just there's going to be someone I like better. Like I'll take good trades on Christian Watson, but like I like a lot of players that other people that like Christian Watson won't. I still like Terry McLaurin, I still like Michael Thomas, and I'll take whatever value added to those makeup for Christian Watson. And so like I don't mind his ADP. I understand why, and it should be high. He should have significant value as a young good player. But I'll take that. I'll take the out if I can get it. And I have in a few places where I picked him up. Pat O'Connor, Gibbs will lead all running backs in receptions. Don't hate it.
I mean,
like it's just Swift, right? I can't get away from the comparison. In my head, Gibbs is just new Swift,
and he may even be a better route runner receiver than Swift is. And I say maybe he is. Like at least on film for me, he's a better route runner and receiver than Swift. Between the tackles, he feels very Swiftian to me, in terms of not a guy who is going to out physical teams, a really good runner in space if you can get him to the edges, that sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what the Lions do with him. That offense should be really potent, and I like Gibbs. I was kind of backed into a corner in my home Dynasty League a couple weekends ago and drafted Gibbs at the 102, even though
I've ended up doing it a few times.
Yeah, that's not
sorry. There's one league where I drafted him and then immediately traded him for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I drafted Sam Laporta, and my league's like, do you just love the Lions or something? I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Anytime you can buy into a Jared Goff-led offense, you have to do it.
You just, you got to do that. But yeah, I've been forced into it twice, I think. But like, I'm very happy to get Gibbs. The only reason I traded him was like Amon-Ra's a 22, 23-year-old phenomenal wide. Like that's the bar for me. Like I'm pretty happy with Gibbs outside of that. Yep. I just wanted Metcalf and Godwin for AJ Brown and the 205. Metcalf and Godwin for AJ Brown and the 205. Was that too much for AJ Brown? I have 8 good wide receivers. There's too many wide receivers called good these days, but still. He has Hurts as his quarterback, which doesn't matter, but it is a very nice quarterback to have. There's an argument to say he should be the QB1 in Dynasty, to be honest. In fact, I think someone has it right that way in DLF right now. But let's see, Metcalf and Godwin. I think you're getting good value on AJ Brown there. Yeah. Is that the 205 this year? It kind of matters because I like the 205 this year a little bit more than most years. But basically, AJ Brown for Metcalf would be more even for me. And the fact you're getting a whole Chris Godwin on top of that.
No, it's the other way around. He traded Metcalf and Godwin to get AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Right. So he's getting.
Well, then I'm hating this trade a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little too much to pay for AJ Brown.
I don't hate it from the get the best player in the deal. You did that, and the 205 is fine. But
this would have been one.
I think people remember that Metcalf should be in. Sorry, carry on. I'm going to shut up.
No. This would have been one that if it had been offered to me, I probably would have countered with Metcalf, Godwin, and my second for AJ Brown and a first, and that would have been how I kind of reconciled it. But it's not like it's not the end of the world. It's not egregious, but I think you're going to be happier with Metcalf and Godwin. Although, again, if you're consolidating wide receivers, AJ Brown is one of the wide receivers I want to consolidate to. So it's not a bad.
That's what I was going to say. If you want the best player in the deal,
yeah,
you got him. Yeah, and I don't mind doing that at all. It's just Metcalf should be closer in value to AJ Brown, and Godwin's still one of the actual good wide receivers in the league. And both Godwin and Edwards and Tampa Bay are values in Dynasty. So I kind of got my eye out for a good deal on him, and he got one here. But again, like Zach says, you definitely didn't get you got the best player. You consolidated into a better wide receiver who is higher ranked by both of us, I think. So I don't hate it. It's just not necessarily the exact way we go, but it's fine. Mike in a stupid face Mike. That's what I call him now. Pat O'Connor, any thoughts on Brian Robinson with a new Washington offense? Russ walked away at some point with the impression I really like Brian Robinson because he tried to get me to value him on a team I don't need running backs. So that was a little weird. So I must have said this before, but I think he's a little undervalued. Like the start of his career has been a little weird, but he's been, as I remember, he's a fairly good college prospect. And he's walking into a situation where hopefully he should be able to play the entire offense. Right now, he's projected as a running back 2 on the offense by consensus values. But I think it's one of those ambiguous backfields, as JJ Zacharyson likes to say, with Antonio Gibson. And so I don't mind investing. Like, he should be one of the plethora of backups or running back 2s that I'm really interested to have in my roster.
Yeah, and he's
pretty good breakout potential this year. Yeah, really efficient. Let's see. Yeah, he's someone I want to add to the back of my depth. Yeah, for sure, especially at his current value. As far as the new look Washington offense, like I don't do offensive breakdowns or what play callers are going to do. I will say I find for someone who a few weeks ago we were talking about how Sam Howell's too late, don't pay it first, but we don't not like him. Zach was really high on him as a prospect and wanted him to be that quarterback you all snagged in your 3rd round, a little above ADP, so you wouldn't have to make that decision now. But I like Terry McLaurin more than the market, and I like Jahan Dotson a little bit more than the market. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, 2 both really solid running backs. Like there's something in there that could be. It's not going to be a breakout team or anything, but like a little underrated in fantasy in general. I think if Sam Howell can put anything together,
and I think that, but I think what Pat is kind of asking about is Bieniemy coming from the Chiefs, and just because Bieniemy is coming from the Chiefs, that does not mean that the Commanders' offense will be the Chiefs' offense. I mean, they're missing Patrick Mahomes. They're missing Travis Kelce. They're maybe I guess the rest of that
Logan
kind of
Thomas ain't it, you
amalgamation.
know?
Yeah. So it's
What I would say is there's a little bit I do know about that story is he's meant to be a good coach, which will mean he won't just try and implement Kansas City. He'll try and use the players that he has the most effectively, which if he's decent, that's what I'll try and do.
Robinson probably has obviously not Jamal Williams the way he scored touchdowns, but that role where he's like the grinder and the goal line guy, because I don't think necessarily that's a role that is filled right now with Washington's offense. And then you have in case of injury, or if he starts to perform really well and they increase his touches, there's value. So, that's it. But I don't
actually have him having the largest share of the rushing and Gibson taking more of the receiving. So pretty even
that tracks.
Split, but, yeah. And both should, find some fantasy value. And in Dynasty, it's those are the type of running backs we're looking for outside of the studs, the ones with more potential and decent usage in between. Zach Harris, did I? No, I didn't miss one. Evening, gents. How are we feeling about JT in Dynasty this year? Undervalued because he's not sexy anymore, but he still is one of the few good young running backs. I'd have him closer to the running back 1 than the running back 5, put it that way. Have a win now team with Brees and Bijan Robinson. So you're good. And JT at flex. Wondering if I should be trying to trade him away like a wipe. In general, I don't mind trading away running backs for good young wide receivers, or even established older wide receivers like you've got here, Tyreek and Diggs. On a win now team, especially, you can go a little older. But in general, I think JT is going to be competitive for those points on a week-to-week basis, one of the few running backs who is. And with Tyreek and Diggs. So unless I'm getting younger and good at the wide receiver position, I'm probably just going to roll out the 3 running backs. And if you're worried about it, I think in season, especially through the first 4 weeks, when these running backs are healthy and balling, and you can find trades then if you really feel like you want to switch some of your value over, because that's definitely a move in Dynasty and one I'm always looking to do. But your running backs are so good right now and young that we're not in Zach's window of trade them now. I don't think you would. JT is actually probably in your window.
JT's right in that window, but he came off a real tough year. So I think you're right in waiting. And I think, Zach, the strategy of waiting is kind of twofold, because you're waiting for people to remember that Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor, but you're also waiting to see whether Breece Hall is back and Breece Hall at the beginning of the season, because he's coming off that.
It might take a minute. Yeah.
That's it. And so if you've got Jonathan Taylor that you can slide into your running back slot with Bijan at the beginning of the season while Breece Hall kind of gets himself together,
gets healthy,
then all of a sudden you have the ability to, if you want to, shift Jonathan Taylor to go get somebody like Garrett Wilson or Jalen Waddle or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not necessarily in that order. To me, it's St. Brown. It's Waddle, St. Brown, and then Garrett Wilson, but they're all kind of in that same tier. One of those wide receivers, AJ Brown, the still young but still ascending wide receivers. That's the move that I would make with JT, but not necessarily now. I think now, looking at that team, you are competitive with Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor has a bounce back year, and you're feeling good either rolling with him early and then trading him, or reassessing and deciding that you want Jonathan Taylor on your team.
Yeah, I think you're waiting for the season, and it's tough. But I don't think your head's in the wrong place at all. I don't think you got any pressure on you. And with Breece Hall maybe being injured, that's something I thought of and think to mention, like Zach did. Like you're okay to wait as well, because he might be on your bench for a little while until he gets healthy, gets right. He J.K. Dobbins is, and then suddenly he's the guy again. But it doesn't matter because you got 3 of them, so you can afford to do that. Whereas if you trade them away, you might be putting yourself in a bit of a bind for a competitive team. X-Brain. If you had a crystal ball as to how the first 3 rounds, including the 3 rounds of the SFB, are going to go, what would you predict? I haven't been able to dig into the SFB just yet, mainly because I haven't been able to buy the data from Addison, so I can start doing my little thing on it. But given the scoring, I think Travis Kelce's going 101. If not 102, he'll go 102. And then it's quarterbacks pretty thick and heavy. Yeah.
So I have the 101. And I'm looking at that.
Right.
There's a big discussion in the 101 DM, and I'm not going to talk too much out of church, but there's a big discussion about
inside baseball. Let's go.
Travis Kelce or one of those top quarterbacks. And I am leaning right now, and Mike, you're at 106 and you can do nothing about this, so listen up. But I am leaning toward taking a quarterback. I'm going to take Josh Allen. That's how I'm going to play this, because I think coming back at the 2-12 and then the 3-12, I like my chances better of getting like Hawkinson or Goddard or, one of those tight ends that are scoring a ton of points in this. And I like my team better with that plus Josh Allen than I do with what comes back. So last year, my division, 14 quarterbacks went in the first 2 rounds. And quarterback scoring is bumped this year. So to me,
there's no negative points.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at Kelce and the quarterback, 16 or 17. So if I have to go Kelce and somebody lower than Kirk Cousins, I'm not very happy with that. Where if I get Josh Allen, who is going to be one of the top 2 overall scorers in this format, and then come back with one of those tight ends who's still within, a sniff of Kelce, I think I'm going to be happier than if I tier, 3 quarterbacks down. So it always looks better in the mocks. So I think if you draft in the mocks and get Kelce, I think you're looking at coming back around and getting one of those, the not the top tier quarterbacks, but you're getting, I don't know, Anthony Richardson, or you're getting Cousins, or you're getting Daniel Jones, or maybe you're
Russell
getting
Wilson,
back end Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. Like you're getting those guys. But I think when the rubber meets the road, and this happens so many times, every year I've been in Scott Fishbowl, I'm like, I'm going to wait on quarterback. And then all of a sudden you see quarterbacks just go because nobody wants to get stuck without the quarterback. And the quarterback scoring this year, yes, there's not a negative, but the top guys are scoring so much.
I've played around in Scott Fishbowl because I typically like to lean away from what's going to be the regular strategy in not going quarterback. But the best year I've had is when I took Patrick Mahomes at the 102, 101. And then I knew Kyler Murray was getting undervalued, and I got him at the end of the second round. And having those 2 pound away. And the thing is, in such a big contest, you don't just have to, because you can win with alternate strategies, like not taking a quarterback in a super flex that heavily favors that scoring system. Absolutely. In 9 out of 10 leagues, like 99 times out of 100, you can win fading into one of these more esoteric strategies. But the thing is, you're in such a big contest that you don't just have those teams to compete with. You have teams that went quarterback, and then snuck a tight end somehow at some point, and they also pummeled running back. It's like a GPP in DFS. It's just you have to go extreme, sure, but at the same time, if you want to have a decent chance at finishing anywhere inside the playoffs, at least, you can't afford to mess the first few up. You need to have pounders in the first 2 rounds. So you need to find that value in the second round, because the third round reversal gets people. I forget some years that's coming. Because if I could say I was going to go, I'm going to go slightly edgy in the first round and then hope to get Mark Andrews in the second round and then come back with something else in the third. The thing is, I got an extra 12 picks to wait, and it doesn't work.
And seeing that
the third round reversal, I think, is terrible. I actually don't like it. I think it unfairly it doesn't balance those first few picks. What it does is it really hurts those first few teams, because by the time player 3 in a draft board is really important, especially in a redraft league. And you're just pummeling them just
it
for the
also
sake that they get a choice in a very thick tier, like 101 to 107. It's kind of the same pick, dude. That's why I took the 102, because I figured I'd get Mahomes or Allen, and no matter what he does with the scoring, those are two pretty good choices. I take the lesser of them, get a slightly better second pick.
But the thing is,
throwing Kelsey in, he's going to go 1 and 2 a lot.
Yeah, in the vacuum, Travis Kelsey is the hammer. Travis Kelsey is scoring 6 points. Scored last year in this format, scored 6 points more than the next tight end. Like, that is the positional advantage.
It's freaking huge.
But I think you lose enough with that. Depending if your league goes late round quarterback, if your team or if your league decides to like back on quarterback, then Kelsey's great because if you get Kelsey and then you get one of the top 10 quarterbacks with Kelsey at the 212,
that's the other reason the third round, like the first few picks are disadvantaged that way, because by pick 7 you can be drafting sensibly, and then it turns out they don't pummel quarterback, and suddenly you're in a bind because you've got one pick over the next 24, and there are still plenty of quarterbacks left for all those teams that have waited. And you get kind of scuppered a little bit. I'm hoping to dig into it more on Friday. I should be able to get the data and start giving a peek at it. But it can't be under exaggerated how much of an advantage Kelsey is in this scoring system. But again, the top 2 quarterbacks, whoever they be this year, also again be very significant. But there's such a thick tier at quarterback. There's like 7. The 7 I'd be pretty happy with in Scott Fishbowl scoring with no negative points. It's even deeper in terms of replaceable positional advantage. So, it's kind of rough. It's actually kind of rough for the first few picks this year, it turns out. I think that's my first too long, didn't really take away on it. It's actually going to be real rough on people with those early picks this year. But, it's all fun. It's a different scoring system. Can't be right or wrong. It's just a different game to try and play. So I'm actually kind of excited, as always. There's a lot of talk of, by the way, in the 102 chat, because I've got a 102, not to inside baseball, but there's a lot of different theories running around. Like, it's relatively easy to stack up quarterbacks with their number 1 receiver with those first 2 picks and trying to get an advantage that way because of the third round reversal. It's going to hurt our third pick a little bit. So get an extra edge in the stacking.
Like the Hurts AJ Brown type deal. Not to, I don't mean to.
I'm not in your chat. If you overdraft Lamar a little bit, you can maybe sneak Andrews at the end of the second. You'd be kind of laughing in this form. Well, not laughing, depending on what you think of it, but that could be a really good stack as well. Yeah. And then you've got Diggs.
Diggs.
Nothing else with Allen if you want to go standard. But again, I have no idea yet. Andrew A. Hot take. Gibson finishes as a top 15 running back this year with the new OC. He's currently projected to be the leader. I think neither of them are in the top 30 at running back, but I think there's definitely potential value for one or the other. Joe will be happy to hear that. Joe, as I remember, big Gibson guy. Yeah. Todd Bradmaker. Sometimes you got to lose value to consolidate.
It's true.
Yeah. It's true in generic, but again, I'm not against that. I just think Godwin was a little too much, but it's fine. It's fine. If I'm giving up that much, like AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, these guys were all fantastic, and they're of a tier. Like if I'm really paying another potential top 12 wide receiver over the next 3 years, Godwin could easily do that again sometime in the next 2 years. Then I want to go to that rarefied team and add even a little bit more. If I'm giving up value, I want to go up to that different class because Metcalf is kind of belongs in there with them. He's just a little underrated right now. Mouthful of gold went out and got me an old man. That's cool. Traded away Sky Moore, always a good move, and a 24th third for Keenan Allen. Feels like too much and also nothing at the same time. So I like it. To me, that's a free Keenan Allen, but
yeah. Did you skip the Bryce Young, Drake London for
Did I? I
Chase.
must have. Sorry, I'm getting excited.
That's
Getting ahead of
okay.
myself. I haven't been here for a whole week, pairing them with her for stack. I don't prioritize stacks, but I certainly don't not like them. In Dynasty, especially if you're playing in the best ball league. But yeah, that's just a free Keenan Allen for me.
Keenan Allen. Yep.
Bryce Young, Drake London, or Jamar Chase. Which side you guys taking?
It's Chase, but it's close. In Superflex, it's close.
Superflex, it's close.
One quarterback, it's not close. In one quarterback, it's Chase, like run away. But in a Superflex, I think that's close, but I still think it's Chase.
Well, yeah, life rule. You can trade for Chase, as long as you can. Yeah. No, I don't even care about your quarterback situation. Just Chase. Yeah. Pardon me. Michael Henry just drafted Hawkinson at 401 in a 1.8 tight end premium scoring league. 2 tight ends as well. Dynasty best ball, which is a really interesting format with the Devy League added in. Start 12 team league, 35-man roster. Did I reach here? Hawkinson. In the 4th round of a strong tight end premiums, probably fine.
Yeah, I don't.
He's not the tight end I want. I think he's a little overvalued, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think you're fine.
There are going to be a lot of loud voices touting Hawkinson this year, though, just because of how much he scored at the end of last year, and they're seeing Thielen gone, and there are a lot of people that don't believe in Addison, and I don't know.
Yeah. And this is a year to speculate at tight end, though. I mean, we've got a really good class of tight ends. You've got Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, maybe, and then you've got Hawkinson and Dallas Goedert and George Kittle, and I put Pat Fairmouth there, and even Darren Waller still probably belongs in that class, and that's really thick for the tight end position. But it is a year to kind of experiment as well, which makes me doubly concerned about an overhyped guy like Hawkinson. Like, it could be a Trey McBride year, it could be a Greg Dolchich, that other tight end sophomore. Like,
no, you got it right in the show this week. I heard you say Dolchich. I heard you.
Dolchich. Yeah, that's one. But yeah, Hawkinson's Hawkinson. The floor is you got a pretty good tight end in a heavy scoring tight end premium league. So
and especially he should be a target tight end, which is what you're looking for in a premium league.
Yes. He's not after catch necessarily like Kittle, and he's not a touchdown pure. Well, all tight ends are touchdown guys, but he's not just a touchdown.
But he should see targets, which is what you're in a premium. That's what you're looking for.
Excellent breakdown. Thanks. Oh, thank you, Pat.
Appreciate it, Pat.
And if you're interested in our breakouts, we're doing a Rate My League now. But we are. Check it out. Carts. Is James Cook cooked? I've been out on James Cook since before it was possible to be in on James Cook, so I'm a little biased, to be clear. Because I could see in another world me seeing the potential, I guess. But my process specifically avoids running backs, rookies specifically, who underperform reasonable expectation. But it starts before that with Cook. Cook was touted as like an Alvin Kamara type. He's got less receiving on his profile than some guys being drafted in the 3rd round this year. Like, he wasn't. I'm sure he's good at it, but it was just a little weird. The noise on him being a receiver was a little over-exaggerated, I think. He's a good receiver, I'm sure. But it's not like he was running a CMC Alvin Kamara type role in college or anything. And also, the window was open for him last year, and the team invested everything they needed to try to feature him in whatever role they might have wanted to, and he just didn't get there. So for me, it was done then if it wasn't done before that. But I get the path, right? I can understand why people are like, still rolling out the usage argument and who else is gonna, but Damian Harris is a solid running back, man. He's been taking work from a lot of great running backs, let alone maybe a good receiving running back. So yeah, I'm kind of out. I think he's cooked.
So what about that second part? What wide receiver can he get with Cook and a second?
That's a good question.
Because I think Cook is
trade calculator, maybe.
I think Cook is valued higher than what Peter
then I just described,
and higher than I value him at too. Like, I think Cook is fine, but if we're talking about running backs who are pass catching backs in backfields with primarily running quarterbacks, that is tough. Because I think Josh Allen is of that same ilk, like Lamar Jackson is, like Jalen Hurts is, where his primary move when he gets in trouble is not to check down to the running back. It is to use his legs, because his legs are a tremendous asset. I do think that like Cook is being valued highly. If it were me, Carls, I would start off looking at whoever has Ayuk, whoever has Deontay Johnson. Maybe
that's where you go for your values. The sleepers
Jerry
who suck,
Jeudy.
who you're like, I
Yeah.
want them, but I don't want to pay for them. You package
Yep.
up someone's excited about, like if they're excited about Cooks, with a second or something.
Even
and then try and get into that. Yeah, you're right. It's Deontay Johnson. It's Ayuk. You can maybe try straight up for someone like Terry McLaurin, who everyone hates.
That was the one that I was going to say.
Some belated love for Donald Mooney. I don't hate it, and then you wouldn't have to add. Probably
you probably get something with Mooney.
Yeah,
but
that's how you get into that tier of wide receiver.
To me, the McLaurin hate has gone beyond the
way too far.
So last year we were on here, and I kind of said I didn't see McLaurin having a great year because of Wentz and because of the way Wentz.
Yeah.
If Sam Howell stays the quarterback in Washington, McLaurin is back, full stop. And that is one of the places I think you can make some hay right now, because McLaurin is being undervalued. With James Cook, I think you're going to even get – it's going to be louder. You're going to see PFF. You're going to see football guys. You're going to see them talk about James Cook being an underrated – there are a lot of Buffalo people
there's going to be so much
in fantasy analysis.
Like there was last year. He's a new slot receiver or some such junk. Yeah.
And so like it's going to get louder, and you're going to get better deals for Cook if you wait a little bit longer.
If you got Cook anywhere, I'm excited for you for some of the deals you can get done, to be honest with you. And I'm glad I mentioned, and you feel the same way about Terry McLaurin, because he's one of the guys where he kind of proves the rule that, you know, a wide receiver isn't as thick as you think, as some people think. Because that guy's just been decent. I mean, he was a surprise to me. I did not get his college profile right. He's the Ohio guy after Michael Thomas. I was like, Michael Thomas was a fluke, and this guy's also looking bad. And I had to eat it, and I did. And I still, you know, more of a top 24 than a top 12 guy. I went on that, and it stuck through. But he's consistently been way better than he should be, from his college profile to his situation. And you just got to give it up for Mr. Cook. For Mr. McLaurin, he's 27 years old, so you know that's why we get into that tier with this kind of a deal. But he's one of those guys you come across, or you think about, or someone mentions, and you're like, damn it, that's one of the guys. It's like whenever anyone mentions Deontay Johnson, it's like, I'm meant to be mentioning Deontay Johnson more. And then when Terry McLaurin comes up, it's the same way. It's like, that's going to be one of the guys everyone's like, where did this come from? And when you think about it, you're like, oh well. Every year, that's what he does every year. And we should have just probably known that. But everyone doesn't think about him. It's not young. It's not sexy. It's not hip. He's just one of the consistent good wide receivers. So just like that. But again, you don't just have to go for McLaurin or Deontay. Ayuk's a really good one because he's got age on his side too, if you like. I would also, if I'm going to buy into sleepers, which I try not to, the two I've got on my list are Bateman and Rondell Moore. And sleepers suck for a reason. They bust more than they hit. But I'm still kind of like buying into those guys, but this is the only way I'll go into it. I'm not giving up draft picks. I'm not giving up proven players. But Cook gives you the opportunity to maybe get into that type of player. Or switch positions, as we often say, like try tight end. If the people in your league aren't giving up those wide receivers, you can try and go and get a positional advantage at tight end or bump your quarterback or something.
Are you concerned at all about...
Cook's the exact guy I would try and use to get into that wide receiver group.
Are you concerned at all about Bateman and his cortisone shot again, trying to get back from injury? Like that was just a thing that was reported that he has missed a little bit of OTAs because he had to get a cortisone shot, which means that he's not quite as far back as they had hoped. And you don't get a cortisone shot if there's no pain. I don't know. Again, I'm speculating
No,
here because I'm definitely not a doctor, but I
no, that's
watched
the
a
thing.
couple of yeah.
I think the exact same way. I think you know where I'm at. It's like, yeah, I'm worried about injuries, but I don't know what to do about them. So I'm just trying to bet on the players and then hope that the situations change and injuries heal. But you're right. But again, that's why I only try and get into him. Like Rondon Moore, because he's got had a lot of trouble with injuries over the first few years at this kind of value, where if it burns me, I'm okay. Like I didn't burn something that means that my roster is immediately at a deficit. I've taken a shot on a thing on house money, on gambling, the money I've set aside to gamble with, not on anything that I need to actually, pay the mortgage of my team, as it were. But you're right. I hadn't even come across that. The injuries are more of a concern than I'm probably thinking about regularly. Michael Henry, if you only have 8 picks in the top 10 rounds of a Dynasty startup, draft 104 Burrow, 107 Chase, 401 Hawkinson. Remaining picks are 5, 7, 5 of 12, 7, 12, 9, 7. That's a lot of information. 9, 7, and 10, 01.
And he said, "Can I push to compete?"
Okay.
How many? Like, what do we? How many starters are you like? The fewer starters, the more viable your strategy is going to be.
This strategy is,
yeah. Because if you have
or the fewer teams,
if you have 8 starters and you have 8 picks in the first 10 rounds, all of a sudden you're feeling really good about it. If you have a 12, a start 12 league and you have 8 picks in the first 10 rounds, now all of a sudden you're not feeling as good about it. You're going to have to be super fine with your picks later. But
the other thing I'd say here is, studs or duds works better in smaller situations. A smaller number of teams, a smaller number of starters. Those are the 2 ways it can work. The other way you can trade up, or there are many ways to try and have more picks in fewer rounds, as you're trying to do here, is you've heavily focused value. It doesn't have to be win now. Now, Chase is solid. Hawkinson might be a bit of a reach on that kind of a build, but Burrow's also just great, assuming this is a super flex because he went so high. Like, you've got him, that value is locked in no matter what happens over the next year, and you can constantly get out or trade it for a wealth of stuff. And that's what's really great about the elite quarterbacks right now, especially. So, like, there are many. I wouldn't think of it as, am I competitive, am I not? Am I putting good players on my roster that work for the team I'm imagining and how I want to play it? And so it really depends on how you want to play this. If you're trying to actively compete, then if anything, I would have traded back a little bit to have more old guys and more competitive this year. Would have stacked up older running backs, for example, and tried to get a little bit extra draft picks for 25 draft, 24 draft, so that after I'm done competing, whether I win or lose, I still have a lot to keep working with. But you seem to be trading up to get value players, which means reaching on someone like Hawkinson, even in a tight end premium, if this is the same question, like he has to put out like that. And I think he's not going to. I think that hype that we talked about isn't going to quite pay off. He's going to be fine in the scoring, but everyone's not going to be like, oh, Hawkinson paid off, now he's Kelsey, and so there's nowhere his value can go. So because you're focusing Chase and Burrow and those higher value assets, I think Hawkinson might be a bit more of a reach in that build. But you've got plenty of picks left. There's 2 5th-round picks, a 7th and 9th. You've got plenty of ways to look for good players or try to focus those older guys to be more competitive. But you kind of try and go one way or the other is kind of the way I play. I'm going to go get, future very cheap draft capital with 2nd and 3rd round picks, so I have something to work with, and go all in on points. Or I'm going to try and edge into value players. So I'm going to overdraft Pitts instead of Hawkinson because, again, people are always going to be somewhat excited about Pitts for a little while at least. But again, you probably have your own rankings of who's value and who's hype and who's not. But that's where I'd approach it, whoever your lists are.
And
sorry,
it's
going
to it's going to be tougher because Michael, I'm assuming like Peter did that this is attached to the 1.8 tight end premium, start 2 tight end, 12 teams start 12, 35-man roster. So it's not ideal, but I don't think after 4 picks you can don't start rebuilding like
Oh, you're
after
not.
4
You
picks.
haven't done badly. You've
Yeah,
got great
yeah,
players. You're good.
yeah. But you're
So
gonna
don't
have to
panic.
like now it's gonna have to be like you're looking for players who are going to score you points now.
Yeah, especially
Like,
since you seem to want to compete.
yeah.
All right. But again, if you're in your startup, you should never be thinking rebuild. You should be thinking about building in a way that is about more tradable assets in the future. So picks and value and Kyle Pitts or whatever.
Right.
And
So
that's one thing. That's a productive struggle way of going, which is perfectly fine. But also, like Zach says, and I think you seem to be geared up to do or you want to do, think more value. And this year, there's a lot of falling, aging players, man. Again, mostly at the running back position.
Running backs.
You could snag a couple of them right there and just ball if that's the way you want to go. But know that you're doing it in a way where you're going to need future value somewhere to build at, so you still have stuff to work with, even though those players are less likely to trade well by the end of the season or in the middle of the season or whatever. So again, that's why I adapt. We try, everyone tries to adapt to the draft. It's not about, am I building? Am I not building? Where's my value players? I want this exact player. It's what's the league giving me? How can I work with that? Is it better to go get value or points? And how do I balance both? And you kind of just, well, you might check it. You try to slowly make a plan for your team and try to enact it. And if it goes wrong, you want to have a way of, okay, if I'm not competitive this year, it turns out, well, I acquired those seconds, so I have something to deal. Or Burrow, for example, is going to be a great piece. So Chase, if you ever have to bail out, you're good, right? And if it goes wrong with value, you're like, well, there's some points available over here, so I can trade these extra picks or these extra young players, get older, get more competitive. And you're just trying to balance that points per game versus the value or the tradability, should we say, of your players, in a way that makes sense to you so that you can start working your league. And again, J-Mike, Zach's co-host, is one of the best at this. He just looks at his team and he decides a direction. And if it's not working, he alters the direction, but he does work in a direction. And that gives you a focus. It gives you know what you're trying to do when you go to your league page. It knows what you're looking for when you go looking for trades, because you have a direction you're going. And I find it a really fun way to play Dynasty, to be honest, because it means you're never sitting there thinking, well, what am I meant to do? I don't know if I need anything. But if you have a direction you're trying to go, you always kind of have an idea of what you're looking for. And I find that an enjoyable way of playing fantasy, and it helps build teams. So I'd work on that. Just think, as the draft goes, how am I building my roster and what am I going to do with it? Not if I'm competitive, I'm not in the next 3 years, but how am I going to work with this roster? Am I going to be trading for value? Am I going to be trading for young guys? Well, I need more second round picks later because I'm very old right now or whatever. Anyway, sorry, went on about that one a bit. What is SFB? Scott Fishbowl.
Yes,
Scott Fishbowl is. Go for it. You do a better job of it.
I have it right here, Peter. It is the world's most famous fantasy football tournament with nearly every analyst in the fantasy industry, athletes, actors, musicians, celebrities, and thousands of other fans of fantasy football playing in the spirit of charity and doing good. It's the best thing that the fantasy football industry does. Andrew, I need you to go to scottfishbowl.com. I need you to click that yellow button that says sign up now, sign up, and then go listen to the Dynasty Dummies episode, the latest Dynasty Dummies episode. And I did half an hour on what the Scott Fishbowl is and why it is just amazing. But it's this huge, it's 3,300 people in a fantasy football tournament raising money for charity for fantasycares.org. A huge chunk of that goes to Toys for Tots, but also it just does so much good, and you can get in and play with your favorite analyst, your least favorite analyst. You know, if you're hanging out here arguing with us,
if you just want to go crush me, for example, you can sign up and come beat me. It's that easy. And
there are chats for your division. There are chats for your draft pick slot. And it's just a really great Scott Fish, who is at ScottFish24, is the mind behind this, and he's kind of galvanized the entire fantasy football community to do good while playing fantasy football, and it is just absolutely amazing. So do that. ScottFishbowl.com. click that yellow button, sign up. You can't get in if you don't sign up, but signing up doesn't necessarily guarantee you a spot. But if you do that and then you go get on Twitter and you follow Fantasy Cares at Fantasy Cares org, if you follow SFB Abby Makers, if you follow the SFB Podathon account, if you follow SFB Merch, they all do contests for entries into the Scott Fishbowl. It's an amazing thing, and it's fantasy football, which is just a blast too.
A few things, just because I don't want to just give you an ad, but that you might want to know. One, it's a charity league, but it's free to play. You sign up for, and like Zach was saying, there are so many ways to get a spot because while there's only so much work they can do to keep setting up free leagues, so there's theoretically a cap. They try to add everyone they can, but like one of the best things I've noticed this year is they're doing competitions. So like post a silly video or a quote or a dance. And again, it's mostly all about community. So it's people connecting with people. It's how I met most of my friends, a lot of my friends in the fantasy space, because you get in those group chats, you post a silly video to get your entry spot, and people are like, good for you for being a good sport. And people like it, and they start talking to you, and so you get to know them, and you get to argue about fantasy football on different DMs. That's basically it. And so it is for charity, but the way they raise money for charity is we end up selling and buying the shirts, or you make donations, or but yeah, the league itself, the scoring changes every year, and he posts it, and that's what we were just talking about. It's a redraft league, but it's many redraft leagues that compete in smaller leagues that then compete. It's like a tier-up system into a playoffs where the winners of those leagues go on to play the winners of the other leagues, and then so on and so forth until you get a champion. The only thing to win, apart from the fun and the connection, is, getting to say that you.
Oh, no, Ed, you win the trophy, you win a belt, you win.
I think, Trophy Smack set them up with some actual. But what you really win, not that Trophy Smack isn't awesome, is, you get to say I beat literally everyone at the end of the day, and that's pretty fun. The no trading, redraft league, standard lineups though, like super flex normally with 2 running backs, wide receivers, a flex, and a tight end. But the scoring changes. He's been including kickers and punters because lots of the content creators out there right now, that's their focus, and so that gets them involved, and everyone who likes kickers gets to play or gets interested in playing. But it is free to play. It's free to sign up, and while it's not everyone gets a spot, they try to make it as easy as possible to get a spot. If you get involved, if you follow along those threads, if you follow the charity organization, there is no promotion of an individual involved apart from the guy who's named for it, I guess. But like you follow those spots so that they can give you the information about the Scott Fishbowl. That's all they do. They don't sell shit. It's just, hey, here's us giving stuff to children raised by money that you're helping doing. That's that, or information about how to sign up. Like, you don't get spammed with ads or anything. So you follow those accounts, and that gives you more of a chance. You engage in the conversations. You have fun. And again, I have no money. I buy one shirt because I can't buy the 5 that many people are able to buy. And yet still I'm able to engage enough that I get a spot and I get to be part of it. So it's not about you spending money necessarily as much as you getting to engage with the community and the community getting to engage with you. That's the part that I like about it. The charity as well, I suppose, and the beating people, but also the community, because you meet people, you get to know people. And so we stay a community instead of becoming a business, which is kind of one of my fears. And I like that about it.
The other part that I would say, Andrew, and everybody else who's in this chat watching this show, because this is going to be right up your alley, is there's the Scott Fishbowl Podathon, which
Podathon was the other thing I was going to mention.
Starts on July 8th, goes to July 9th. It is 36 hours this year of half-hour segments of every single person that you could possibly think of, from Matthew Berry all the way down to us.
Heath Cummings is always first in the door, I think. He's a big supporter of it. Yep. And Matthew Berry's been in there forever as well. Yeah.
It's literally Matthew Berry comes on, Liz Loza comes on, Matt Harmon comes on. It was the Kate and Michelle Majuk who started the Ball Blast podcast, who now Michelle is working for the NFL. They started, I remember watching them at midnight on the podathon. And
I think I'm doing a 4 a.m. slot.
Yeah, and
I'm no one.
It's literally it's so check that out too. It'll probably be on the DLF account. My guess is I know it will be on the SFB Podathon account.
Almost all of us will be retweeting the live feed, and it's great. And that's, again, not that everything's about money, but it is when you don't got none, so I always default to it. But like most of the fun is free. It's watching that podathon. One of the things I like to point out is it's not just about, they're getting views. It's you get to get a piece of what different podcasts are like and what different analysts you might never have heard or never heard about before. And you might like them. You might like their process or what they have to say, or hate it and want to argue with them, but you learn about them just because of this 48-hour free show. And I think that's pretty awesome.
36.
Also,
don't kill Sal
yet.
Don't kill Sal. It's only 36.
And occasionally you get to meet or just see, and that's fun. Someone that's fan, like getting to see Liz Loza on the podcast is a big deal for me. Like I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan since she was on a guest spot in the other football guys football show, not the fantasy football guys. And Matthew Berry I've been reading his column for years, and you get to see him talking about something you're doing. You're in this league, and that's pretty cool. But it's mostly meant to be fun and community driven, and we also end up raising a buttload. Like they do eliminators related to the Scott Fishbowl, where you can just sign up to play against your favorite analyst in a best ball league. Now those cost, I think they're $10 at a time, but literally John Bosch does it, our friend, and he just gives all the money straight to the charity, and it just goes and buys things for kids. Like that's all it does. But you also get to go play Liz Lozo. You can play Heath Cummings, and 9 fools signed up to play against me, and obviously they're going to lose, even though I've never won one. But that's fun too, because you get another group chat. I've got 10 people I probably wouldn't have talked to otherwise who are in that same eliminator as me, and they're all shit talking me. It's awesome. So yeah, I'd check it out. It might not be your thing, it's not everyone's thing, but it's a lot of fun, and you will see the SFB hashtag every now and again, so it can be fun to take part. Because it's not, again, it costs nothing to do most of it. To watch the videos, to have fun, to retweet them, to just raise awareness that it's going on. All of that's good stuff, and they appreciate it. But on to Fantasy and Dynasty. Stickman87, 10 teams through flex, start 9, 6-point passing touchdowns. I should be a top contender this season, but my QB room is a little shaky. Lamar, Kyler, Carr, I actually like it pretty well. But anyway, Watson might be available. Would you add to Kyler to get Watson? I go the other way. Again, this goes a little bit to how you play Dynasty, but my focus is on improving my team overall. Not that they're all going to stay on my roster, but I think they're going to be more valuable by more people over the immediate future. And I think that's Kyler for me. I think Kyler's easily got the same points per game range of outcomes as Watson when healthy. Even if he doesn't like football, and my actual football fan friends are like, Hopkins says he's terrible, so he's terrible, and I kind of believe him, but I also have to believe what he's been able to put up so far. He might not be as hurt as the doomsday scenario of not playing till the playoffs this year either. But either way, I think Kyler Murray is the way to go in Dynasty because there's more bets for more future value potential. But it's within a tier if that's not the way you think. Like, it could be a very fine trade if you want points this year. I kind of get it. Zach, do you have a way of breaking that medium?
So they're in very similar tiers for me with very similar risk. Although the risk is not similar, the amount of risk is similar.
Yeah. Like if you were to percentage it out, it's probably close, but of a different color. Yeah.
I don't mind Lamar and Carr in terms of starting in a super flex.
Oh, no, I think you're going.
So I don't think you necessarily need to go get Watson. If Watson's available and you can like throw Kyler and a second or whatever and get Watson, I'm fine with that. I don't think that the value difference, if Watson comes back and is a top 5 quarterback, I think that he completely retains his value, and all of a sudden, like, you made a great trade.
And to be fair, the one thing we know is Kyler isn't going to play a full season or be as impressive as he has been through the first 3 years. So there's a more immediate risk of his value dipping a little bit more than it already has.
But I'm not going to go add a first or a player that I think is going to crack my start 9 lineup or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to add that to Kyler to go get Watson if I've already got Lamar and Derek Carr, because that's fine. Like, that's your quarterback situation is much better than the quarterback situation that I tend to play with in Superflex leagues.
I'd be much more no. Like, the problem is because we can throw out a million trades that will work. Because I want to say, like, I'm really interested in Herbert right now. Like, he's my QB1 for targeting, and Murray's 2. But like you're saying, Watson's available, and I can't assume the guy in your league is interested at all in trading Herbert because he shouldn't be. So since this is what's available, as far as you know, I don't hate it, but I think Zach is right. I think the point is, what's the trade? Like, if you can give it something that isn't part of your starting lineup and isn't a first-round pick somehow, then yeah, I think that'd be a real good trade for you. That be comfortable in the way you're trying to build your team for this year. So yeah, I would try that, but I'd keep Zach's rules in mind for what you will and won't trade. Otherwise, you'll just roll because you're fine with Lamar and Carr. I think you're fine, but it'd be nice to have that edge. Yeah. Rambo, I know you. You're famous. You got movies and everything. 12 teams Superflex tight end premium start 10. Not competing until 24. Don't say that. We can do it. It's okay. We'll get there. But anyway, inbox offer. Give Henry, Juju, and get Miles. Juju's on that list of wide receivers for me you were talking about. And Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, and a 25 first. So this is Henry and Juju for Miles Sanders and a 25 first, basically. Hubbard's not rating, but he's not really a feature of this deal. I think it's not enough, but because you're trying to build, I get bleeding a little value to get that first. It makes sense for your direction. I would say it's probably fine, but I would probably wait till the season. Like, I think Derrick Henry at least can bring you a first in season in 25. And then you don't have to give up the other things. You can give them up for thirds and seconds and still be doing better. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think
if in season you can't get a first for Derrick Henry, I think I'd be shocked. Like, when he's scoring points again, I think most teams will give you a first if they're competitive. Maybe even better.
Yeah, this is
and
like
from there, the trade is just plus.
Yeah, this is like the last year, though, of I think of getting out of Derrick Henry for that.
Which is why I'm kind of humming, because I get it. It's not a bad trade for Derrick Henry right now, but I still think I might roll the dice. Like, I think he can put up some games, and you can get a first, and then you're winning.
But again,
you're not. Point, I mean, give up the rest for a second, and you win.
Not competing until 24 changes that, though, because not competing until 24, you get the first, and then you can turn around and trade Sanders and Chuba Hubbard as a package to somebody who thinks having a handcuff is a great thing. I think I would rather do that, because I think by the time you're ready to compete, it's going to be harder to compete with Derrick Henry and Juju Smith-Schuster. So, Pete, I don't know if you're back. I was going to say, can you roll me to the next question? But
I sure can. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. By the way, like, don't get too cute, and you can trade Sanders and Hubbard as well. So yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think Rambo, Zach had the better take there. I like that one. Fantasy Condo, the 112 and Traylon Burks for Garrett Wilson. Yeah. I think that's solid for Garrett Wilson. Like, I want Burks, but I want him a less value than that. It's Wilson there. Yeah. Like, this is how I used to end up on too many of my darlings. Like, those underperforming college profiles that I like. There's too many of them to trade them as if they've done it like Garrett Wilson did, if you know what I mean. It's how I end up with too much Corey Davis and Juju Smith-Schuster after his first year as well. Even though he broke out into the top 12 in his second year, like, you can get clamped by it more often. I really like Burks. I think he's a little undervalued. I think his rookie season was better than it was. Garrett Wilson did what we hoped Burks can do, and the 112 isn't close to making up for that difference. Like, you can't undervalue a great as Wilson had rookie season. That's like one of the things you should not try. You should try not to do in Dynasty. Now, an overvalue him again. The bust rate's higher than we remember, but this is strongly within the margins of error. Thanks, Lasmeyer. So, guy on the left. I don't know which one's on the left for you. I'm going to assume it's me. Yeah, I'm pretty much a clown. That's true. I like to make people laugh. Superflex 12-man PPR. And that was for the Bryce Young quest. So it is Superflex. Yeah, yeah, it's a Jamar Chase side still. But thank you for the context. Spock 498. Next move, 12-team Superflex start 9. No PPR. Tight end premium. Hang on. Is this one of those I read it wrong? No PPR, but tight end premium.
Start 9. No tight end. No PPR.
But with
I think it's premium. No PPR, no tight end premium.
So it's no both. Okay.
Right.
Fields, Murray, this is his team. He's got Akers and Saquon. That's interesting. Chase, Waddle, and okay, your wide receivers are gold. Got it. Like the worst one on this, Cooks. A little questionable at tight end, but you got some breakouts. And you got Gibbs, 105. Nice. What's the question? What's my next move? Akers plus 210 or Joe Mixon?
It's not Joe Mixon. I'd rather go get somebody else than Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I'm fine keeping the Akers potential and the 210 for Mixon. Like Mixon ain't it for me personally. But I kind of get the argument. Let's see who'll be in that category for me. Tell you what, if you want to piece up your pieces, like Najee Harris, honestly, is a running back that I would target in ranks. Like that's a lot higher than Joe Mixon. But if I'm adding something to Akers to get a better running back, I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up and get Harris probably. Although that might be a little too far. But he is my number one. Target Swift. You probably get something like that done for Swift, and I wouldn't mind that either.
But again, this is a non PPR league, so Swift is a kind of a shrug.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
To me, it's go try to get somebody like Chubb.
Chubb would be an alternate. Yeah, if you can't get Harris, go Chubb. Yeah.
Or that's honestly, if you're competing in a league like this, go look at the Derrick Henry owner and say, hey. Like, can we do something? And then all of a sudden, you got a bull of the woods for this year.
You at all interested in Rashad White?
No.
That value?
No.
Okay. Is there any other name that came to mind?
Yeah, no.
All right.
He's going to be one of those guys that is gone after next year, and people are like, how come he never hit? And it's because he's a running back who's fine.
12-team Superflex, no PPR, non-tight end premium, same league. Saquon plus Deontay in the 210 or ETN and DJ Moore and the 203. Saquon, Deontay.
And the 210.
Yeah, it's Saquon and Deontay.
I want Saquon over ETN by a sight. I actually want Deontay over DJ Moore, but don't tell Peter.
No, I would agree. I would do that.
And the 203 and the 210, yeah, you want the 203, but whatever. So to me,
you're getting the best deal. The 210, the only thing you're losing is the 7 picks in the second round. I'll take that. That's fine. I prefer players anyway. That's cool. Clinton Davis, 10-team Superflex tight end premium, tight end 2.75 PPR. Wow.
We're making up for Spock's league.
Yeah, I guess. Wide receiver 2-point PPR. Okay. Running backs 1.75. 2 trades moved me from Andrews and Madison to Pitts and Kincaid in a full rebuild. What do you think? Good moves in this format? Yeah, I get putting more into the tight end position, but Kincaid, man, there's so much of a hope. Like you went from Andrews to 2 maybes, and Pitts is not really a maybe. He's good.
A maybe.
Fine. Well,
Peter.
Yeah,
that offense is a maybe, which makes him. Yeah.
He's been scoring he's the only other player scoring relatively the same as Andrews, Kelsey, and Kittle. Like he has been scoring in that range relative to replacement over baseline. I'm just saying. He's just been disappointing because he was meant to be God.
Yeah.
But anyway, you went from Andrews to the guy we think is maybe an Andrews tier, and Kincaid. And No, I think that's too much for me, even with the premiums. Like, if you'd, how far away is it for you? Like, who does Kincaid have to be before you're like, okay, that's good? Is it Kittle?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Kittle
no,
moves.
he's like he's got to be a Hawkinson, but I don't.
Hawkinson, yeah.
I hate I don't want to be the bearer of bad news on Kincaid. Kincaid is a good player. I really he would not be my tight end 1. He would not be my tight end 2 in this draft class.
It's my tight end 1. It's a tier of 3. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm addicted to draft capital, Zach. It's a problem.
Yeah, because we all know that all of the best tight ends had the highest draft capital.
Exactly, they were all drafted in the first 20 picks or so.
No, they're not.
No, the exact opposite is true. I know. I've given that warning, and yet
it's literally go find the guy with the athletic profile and bet on that.
And production, to be fair. Zach Harris, what would it take for you to trade Garrett Wilson? A lot. He's like an incredibly high dynasty asset. Top 12, top 10, maybe top 7? Top 10. It seems like his value couldn't get any higher. Potentially it couldn't, but it depends if he's trading for that in your league, because I think I know where this is going. And I have him on a squad that needs retooling. Yes, you can consider trading Garrett Wilson, but you've got to remember that the hype on Twitter and the ADP and the silly stuff I say might not be reflective of the trades you can get. But if you're on a roster that's Garrett Wilson's what you've got, you should definitely explore trading him. For sure. But you should, and what that value means is you should be expecting at least the equivalent of 3 first-round picks.
And honestly, I would want multiple in one. If I'm getting 3 first-round picks, I want at least two in 1 year.
Yeah, you don't want to spread him out over 3 years, to be clear. And you want to have some... Honestly, he's high enough, and that's where we get into the weeds. I want some sense that one of them isn't going to be, bottom 4.
Right.
You can't estimate very well. We actually do a very bad job of that on a year-to-year basis, but I want to feel like one of them at least isn't going to be outside the top 6 as best as you can estimate. But again, you don't have to trade specifically for picks. That's just because we all have picks in all leagues. It's the one thing we know everyone has, so we kind of refer to it as currency. But I mean, you can find lots of trades that would work for you that aren't just 3 first-round picks. But that's hopefully a value guide. And yes, Zach, you should definitely explore the option. But it's going to come down to what your league makes feel. Are they high? Because if they're not, then you're just keeping Garrett Wilson for now. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the trick and the trap. That was both of them at the same time, so I tripped. But it's the trick and the trap of dynasty analysis is everybody will tell you to sell the good players. The problem with that is you need the good players on your team. Well, you need the good players on your team to score points. And if your league doesn't value the good players the way that your fantasy analyst that you're listening to does, then you're not getting what you need back for that good player. So I
tell you what, Zach, I've got a couple of leagues that are retooling in that when I look at my roster, it is trash. I just know I'm not it happens. And the only other thing I would say to you, because I think it's advice we don't say enough, embrace the suck, man. It's not a limitation on your team. It's liberating. You get to do nothing with your bench than hold running backs. Every time they go to the waiver wire looking for the new running back pickup, you should be like, I got him. And there's a 3rd or a 2nd round pick maybe if one of them breaks, right? And you get to not hold a QB2, because what's the difference, really? If you're not competitive, why bet on this one on Toon doing some, or not Toon, but Davis Mills? Trade him for literally anything and use that spot for another running back, and you get to just focus draft picks, because while it's stupid and I hate it, trade for draft picks. If your team honestly is in that suck, you get to just embrace it. It's no, I want draft capital. I don't want to bet on players right now. I just want things that are going to be shiny for you later down the line, so I can get players. I can draft the shiny new players, and then I can trade them into other players that are Deontay Johnson instead. It won't be him by that time, but still. So I would say embrace the wholehearted suckiness of the suck. And it does free up your roster a lot. You can do a lot with a roster you're not trying to compete with than you can. And if Garrett Wilson is really on your roster, you can embrace the suck. It doesn't matter that no one's going to give you the trade that you want. You're just like, he's just going to sit here and not do much to my bottom line. I've got the 101 in the bag. Someone will want him. Eventually, you have nothing but time. They are the ones with time pressure because they're trying to score points.
Another avenue that I might take, Zach, is the person who just drafted Jordan Addison. So or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like I really love a wide receiver,
young one.
If you can trade Wilson, get one of them and get another first. I think you have that upward mobility with them to get to that Wilson value and, more importantly, the Wilson points eventually. Plus, you add another piece that you can go next year and rebolster your team. And if you can do that, if you can trade down in value, but not actually trade too far out of a tier, and you get that player that's ascending, and you can make that bet and hit, I think that's a win.
I would put an asterisk on that. Yes, especially for rookies, but you care less about player names if you're honestly embracing this. So if you're trying to rebuild, so like it's not an opportunity for you to get value because I know Rashad Bateman's good and you don't. Like that's the stupid move I've made in the past. I'm going to go in on my sleepers, and then you just end up bleeding the little value you have into other stuff that becomes nothing. But rookies are a different prospect. And if you've got a rookie, like personally, means that both really like Jordan Addison relative to where everyone else is at. So there are options, but not even Traylon Burks. Don't buy the second year, maybe.
Right.
But that's a mistake I've made before on teams where I was looking for sneaky value. So I went for my sleepers. And it's like, it's not... Like you get to just embrace not having to do that anymore.
But the fact that they're sleepers, that means that they're already
there's risk.
You're already upside down on your risk.
You're like
so then
anti-risk now. Like nope, second round picks don't bust until you make them. So that's those are the things that I like. Yeah. SU2 buddy, welcome back. 1 QB, half point PPR, the 102, the 103, the 208, and or Justin Jefferson and Samaje Perine. In a 1 QB league,
it's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. If those were quarterbacks in a super flex, like honestly, it's a consideration, but no.
I mean, you don't even get Bijan, right?
No,
so you're getting
JSN,
one of
Addison,
the three,
JSN,
Addison, or Gibbs. Justin Jefferson, man, is already...
He's already everything we could hope for that to be. Yep. And Samaje Perine, pretty decent running back depth, man. We just love those to hold it. Maybe
I have him on a bunch of teams because he
might get
free.
a start out of him. Yeah, exactly.
So you may get half a season out of him, depending on.
I think I've still got Travion Williams on some teams because one day he might get a start, and I'll take it. What's up, guys? Been a while. Yeah, sorry about last week. That's my fault. Just wanted to pop in and say hello. Cheers. Thanks, Jeannie. Good to meet you. Good to see you again, rather. Open 24 hours, 10 teams, start 10 lineup, Superflex, PPR, 1.5 tight end premium, 0.25 points per carry. I actually think points per carry should have been picked up more broadly in scoring.
I like it.
I think it's really interesting. I hate it because it makes it more complicated and I don't know the rules just by glancing. But it's a really interesting scoring feature.
It's a balance for guys like Chubb and Henry.
It's not bad. I don't think scoring has to be balanced or like the real NFL, but it actually is really interesting fantasy-wise in that you've got more players doing more and the things that they do score more. More points is good.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting scoring. But anyway, and I wouldn't have tried it, actually, if it hadn't started to be included in a Scott Fishbowl a few years ago. Like, that's how I know. So another plug. Just now traded Higbee to get Algier. I don't mind trading Higbee, and Algier's running back, so it's fine.
I mean, except for It's a 1.5 tight end premium, and Higbee is one of the tight ends that I think is super sleeper. Like Higbee, don't tell anybody, but Higbee is a target of mine
I think Schultz is better, but all right.
I mean, Higbee was the tight end 6 last year, Peter, and nobody knows.
I know. And Schultz has been top 12 the last 2 years, and also no one knows. But yeah, Higbee does it in spurts, so as well, especially in a premium league, talking about your necessity for targets. He does it not on volume, but on occasional games. If I remember right, I have to check that out. But yeah, you're right. Higbee's decent, especially in a tight end premium league. But I just fade the running back. I mean, unless I'm starting Higbee, and he's got Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts. You're not getting much else for him.
But you're getting Higbee, a backup. You're getting a backup running back though, and you're getting your own handcuff.
Oh well, that sucks. I forgot that. I still break it running back, but I do appreciate the point. Yeah, Higbee's probably along the valued.
I mean,
too many tight ends, eh? I don't care.
He had 108 targets last year. What do you want?
I want Mark Andrews.
He's got Mark Andrews.
Exactly. So there's nothing left to do. Might as well trade him. Headers make money. I have Sam Howell as a 4th QB in a 12-team Superflex start 11. I've got dinner waiting for me, by the way. I might just give up and go eat them pretty soon, by the way, because it smells great. Planning to trade for running back depth to maximize his trade value. Should I wait till after the season starts? I don't necessarily plan to trade for it so much as just add them all off the waiver wire. But it's about the trade at this point with Sam Howell. And it's what can you get for him, you know?
Yeah. And I don't wait. Yeah, I don't mind if you can get a starting running back for Sam, like a decent starting running back, like that's fine. Like you don't need to hold that quarterback just because it's a quarterback. If you can get something that will help your team, go do it.
Where's the line for you in terms of running backs? Like, I mean, let me take a quick glance here at running backs. How deep do we get? Ramondre Stevenson too much?
If you can get Stevenson, do that all day. I don't think you can. Okay. I think you're probably looking closer to like Aaron Jones, like Miles Sanders, that area, which is fine.
Damian Pierce.
I'm not a Pierce guy. I guess
I'm not a Pierce guy, but he's in that range.
Yeah.
It's Cam Akers, Damian Pierce, Aaron Jones. So one of those running backs is probably fine for me, just to clarify. Like, if I could get one of those guys, sure. If you're going down to, like, I don't mind Herbert and Connor, but for a quarterback, it seems a little cheap. So it's between one and the other. Would you do it for Connor, though? He is a starter. Probably, but he's just volume.
I don't mind. Like, I think Connor is he's a guy who is not long for the league, but will put up tons of points while he's playing. Yeah. So I probably am not doing that, but I would strongly consider it before I decline the trade, you know?
All right. Marvin, welcome back. Just did a 40-man Dynasty draft, start 8 Superflex. Derrick Henry, Flavin Cook, James Conner, Rashad Penny, and Fournette. What do you think? I have McBride in Minnesota too. And McBride, is he talking about Dwayne McBride? Must be Dwayne McBride.
Yeah.
That's the only other McBride I can think of. 40-man Dynasty, start 8 Superflex. These are just your running backs, right? These aren't the picks that you made in order, because if so, that was bad. But I think the running back room is pretty thick for this year. I think I think you'll have a highly useful running back room this year. Derrick Henry's your one. James Cook, I trade, like we were just talking about. And everyone else is, you start them for their starts.
Yeah, but you got to
value over the next few years.
You got to hope Dalvin Cook signs.
Yeah, I mean, they're all just starts.
Well, but like Dalvin Cook has been cut. So, like, he's not on a team right now. And has said, I'm not going to sign somewhere unless I get $5 or $6 million. So, like, you're going to have to hope that he changes his mind, because I don't think that he's going to get the money that he wants.
Yeah, can't comment. I assume he'll swing somewhere, and I might be wrong on that. But everyone below Derrick Henry here is just you're hoping for running back starts at some point this year, and it's just this year. And James Cook is a strong sell based on the stuff we were talking about earlier. And Derrick Henry is going to be good this year because he's Derrick Henry. But he's a this year. These are just points players. They're running backs for a start, but this is a particular group, which is why I'd rather trade Cook.
Calling him Flavin Cook, I want to be like, yeah, boy. But sorry,
I would, but I can't do that. But I would if I could.
You did a really good Seinfeld earlier, though.
Oh, I did. Yeah, the way I just didn't. Chris, missed a show last week. Glad you guys are back. Chris, so did we. It's okay. It's a first Wednesday. We haven't done it, and it's because I just fouled out. I said no to last week. But I appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking us out again. Spock498. You guys are the best. I've been saying that for years, but no one believes me. I don't know. No, thank you, man. 12 team start 10. Superflex PPR tight end premium 2.0 tight end premium. Start 10, 24 first and a 24 first. Wait. 224 first or Travis Kelce? That's right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
With this team, it's Kelce. With this team, it's Kelce. Look at that. Watson, Murray, Stafford. You probably want another quarterback. AJ Brown, CD, Waddle, Higgins, Kupp. There's your other quarterback.
Yeah.
Henry, Aaron Jones, Sanders, Kittle, and Kelce. If you can, man, start 10 with a 2 tight end premium. Kittle, Kelce, CD, Waddle, Higgins, Kupp, Henry, Aaron Jones, Sanders, and then Watson. There's your team, and Kelce is your QB2. Like, holy cow! Like, rock that.
Yeah. It's Travis Kelce. I'm not going to put up too much of a fight. So, and with this roster, you're right. You are trying to win this year, and honestly, your players are young enough that if you don't win, those firsts are still going to be pretty low, even in a year. And you're not dead. You're not dead in the water at all because you've got CD and Waddle and AJ. Like, you're good. So yeah.
And Spock, this is almost the exact build that I try to implement in heavy tight end premium leagues. So in the leagues that Russ does that are 1.75 or 2-point tight end premium, because that makes the tight end so valuable and score so many points. You can use one of those. If you get two, if you bully tight ends, so if you get Kelce and Kittle, one of them is your tight end, and think of the other one as your QB2, and that is a strong QB2.
Absolutely. Brendan, how you doing? 12 teams for flex start 9. Give Charbonnet and 24 first. Receive Tannehill, Madison, Bateman, and a 24 second. I think the first is a prize in this trade, which is my only problem with it.
Yeah.
Tannehill is a competitive roster move, so Madison. Bateman I like, obviously, but I'm trying not to give first up to get those guys, like I mentioned.
So
it seems a little bit like a first for some
value-wise, it's probably pretty even, but I think you're right, Peter. Like the first is the piece in it that I want, and with a trade like this, that's where I'm staying.
I think this is one of those trades that is perfect in a trade calculator, but a human can look at it and go, "But the shiny thing," you know what I mean? And I really want to be higher on Bateman than I am, but the reason I get to be higher on Bateman right now is because he's not high. Because of the disappointment. And apparently Zach says he's going to be more injured than I expect. So, we'll all blame Zach.
Well, he could be. I don't know. Like, he's had a cortisone shot. So,
yeah.
Which is not a good thing.
It's not a great thing. I think it's just the Charbonnet on the first side for sure, actually. I think that even in a super flex. If you have a highly competitive roster and Tannehill is like really significant to your team, that's the only way I can think I'd be like, and I get Bateman. Okay, fine, sure. But 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, I think you just keep the first in that. Like, I'm not trying to trade a first for those level of players, even if it makes sense. It's kind of trade I might do in season before my playoffs because those are the things that I need to start, and I'm really competitive. I'm going to win. You're like, okay, here's the 112. Let's go. But right now, I don't think the pressure's on you to do it. But it's your team, you know. Alave and JSN for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like you, Rand. I knew I liked you, and this proves it because you may be the only person who likes Amon-Ra St. Brown as much as I do, but this is too much.
Well, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown plus what? So this feels like a Miller analogy test. Olave and JSN are to
I didn't take
Brown.
stats. You can't do those kind of tests.
Like that's like a Jordan Addison. Like again, like that's
I don't know there's a fair plus is what I'm
top
like.
It's like a top 5 first. Like a top 5 first round pick. It's Jordan Addison. That like to me, Olave and JSN, St. Brown and Jordan Addison.
Then you're just
do it.
paying, but that's just even.
I know, but that's what he said. Like what?
Like the only way of balancing this trade is a way that makes it not a good trade for either side because they're just same. Yeah. So like, okay. But interesting question. Thanks for the exercise. Spock 498. My only 24 first, or the 106 projected JSN. 12 teams who flex non-tied, no PPR, start 9.
Is this that same team that looks really competitive? Because I'd rather have JSN than like a 108 next year, or the 112 next year. Whatever.
In a standard or non.
Oh no! So this is no PPR. So this is different. Oh, man, I wish we had the.
Like I just want running backs basically in rookie drafts, in standard leagues, but not that JSN still wouldn't. That isn't a fair pick for JSN. It is.
Right, but no PPR. Like that's going to be JSN's money. Is he's going to should be a PPR machine. He's not as valuable in that type of league.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I think I'd probably hang on to the first. As much as I love JSN in that league, it changes the.
I'll tell you what. A way of fact checking that is our upside projection, our upside expectation for JSN is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So how good for your team would he be? And that's a way to make a decision. I would suspect that when you look at your scoring and what he does for teams in your league, you'd be like, that's not much because he's mostly volume and very, very good. But he's a Jarvis Landry, man. There are not a lot of touchdowns coming to you. Yeah. Especially this year. So I think I don't hate it. It's fair. It's fine. But like Zach said, if this is that competitive roster, you are trying to make moves that maintain that. Maintain competitiveness.
Was still a top 10 last year in standard, but
see, that's where I was saying I don't know where that fits into standard scoring, so don't look at it. Like if it's actually still pretty good, then it's probably okay.
It's a top 10, but the difference between him and like the
wide receiver 20,
wide receiver 15. So like if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 down below him, it's 9 points. Like over the course of the season. So like it's not
nothing, but it's not
no, but it's not much.
It's
less than like half a point a week. So
I think it's just, but then again, it's just a random first, so it's fine. But I think there are moves that like JSN isn't the one that's going to be moving in that scoring system. He's not moving the needle enough. But I don't hate it. You get JSN, you tell everyone that you got JSN, and just never mention the standard scoring. You'll be fine. Right. But not ideal.
And
Spot 498.
Yes, this one, yes.
Trade away Amon-Ra to get JT and CS.
JT or CMC, either of them.
See, that's the thing. Like, I want Amon-Ra in every Dynasty league. Ignoring your scoring settings, I'm still like, Amon-Ra. But like you're a competitive roster. Like you must win on a competitive roster.
Trade St. Brown, go get CMC and win.
You know?
Yeah.
Just straight up win. Like you can lose one of your top 5 running backs and still win. I'd probably do that. So yeah. I think that's way overvalued as well. Like I don't even think in Dynasty ranks Amon-Ra is going to pull JT and CMC money. So I think you're getting a runaway steal there.
I think it's one or the other. But even that, like I want I go get CMC.
I get
for
CMC.
St. Brown. Yeah.
Because that's the whole point. You're looking like I like JT a lot in Dynasty, but straight up CMC is over JT and that's because I only think of running backs when I think scoring points, and that's CMC for me.
Your dinner is your dinner over there?
That was so good. I scuppered that, man.
Oh,
but
man.
No, that would have been good. That would have been a good one. Yeah. Look behind you.